Hello. Welcome to quick demonstration on how you can bypass Smart Rule on CSV import. So the requirement for this one here is that there can be transactions that you're going to import coming from a different source or in a specific field that is required and user interface is not available when uploaded, say via CSV. So in our example in here, I have a Smart Rule that validate reference number that it has to be filled out basically before I'll be allowed to post it or to save it as a draft. So let's try this one here. Okay. So just to show you what the error will be like. So I'll just fill out the other records in here. So notice that my reference number is blank at the moment. So just fill out all the fields in here, or the relevant fields rather. So just put some information here as the location. And let's look for G11, other acquisition here, and click on post. Okay. So I have here smart rules saying that it's a code bypass validation. So reference cannot be blank unless override is allowed bypass is equal to false, right? Okay. So what you can do is that you will notice in here that it refers to a particular field. So what you can do is that, if this is existing on a user interface, but you would like, because that same rule, smart rule, will still be used when you import via CSV, via CSV. So what you can do is that in order to bypass that smart rule, you can create like a custom field. So just like what I have here, I call it like bypass field. It's a checkbox and it's applied on AP purchase invoice. Then when you look at the AP purchase invoice, you cannot actually see that field itself. It's all because if you look at that field, you can hide it. You can hide it, right? So it will just be available for CSV import. So when the user creates the AP purchase invoice via UI, the user might be able to override it. So it's actually required to fill out the reference number. Otherwise, you'll be having that error. But for certain cases, for CSV import, you would like the user because, again, with the availability or non-availability of the reference number, then the user should be able to import a CSV. So regardless of whether the reference number is filled out or not, then the AP purchase invoice should be imported. All right. So with the custom field called bypass as checkbox, you can integrate that on the smart rule that you're making use of. So with this smart rule here, apply it again with AP purchase invoice, modify it in such a way that you have the validation for the field called bypass in this case, right? So which means that if the document number is not equal to zero and bypass is not equal to true, or the document number is not equal to blank, or bypass is equal to true, then it should require it should pop up an error, or the import will not be successful at all. But basically, what we're saying in here is that with this logic, so regardless of whether you have the reference number filled out or not, if the bypass field is checked or is set to true, then we'll be able to import it. All right. So maybe it's best to show that in action through CSV import. So I have here this import file. So I have three scenarios in here first. We have first, second, third, he. So the reference number for the first one is blank, while the second and third have the reference number. Okay. So I intentionally made the first one, its reference number is blank, right? But if you scroll further to the right, you have the bypass here is false. So I would expect that this would be rejected, while the second and third will be accepted, right? Because it has reference number, whether the flag as bypass is set to true or false. It has the value anyways. But since this is an imported AB purchase invoice, everything will be rejected. Okay, let's give it a go. If that will be validated at all, so I'll just go back to the list of AB purchase invoice, or I can just go to accounts payable if it doesn't allow me to. All AP purchase invoices here and import. All right, so I have that file, first one, which is accounts. This one, date format is DDMMYYY, and post to general ledger. All right, so I'll click on import. All right, so I have this notification that once it's done, then I should receive an email notification whether successful or not. But then again, what we're saying is that since the first line here of the import file has no reference number and the flag to bypass it is also set to false, then this will error out. So this entire file will fail, even if the second and third transactions are valid ones. All right. So let's have a look. Let me just have a look at my email and see how we go. All right. So let me just open up this and move it along here. And yes, it will stay in here, which is a good indicator, right? So the number of entries with import error is 1. That's the first scenario, right? That's what we would expect. But validation wise for the two, those are valid transactions. So those should be the, um, you know, um, rows 4 and 5. Those are actually correct. All right. So because we have that validation in here, right? The bypass should be true. So look at this one here. Reference. Okay, it's allowed unless override is allowed. The bypass actually to false. That's why we'll not be able to save this unless you have the PO number or the reference. Reference number or PO no as the ID. All right. So now what we can do is that okay, let's just leave it blank, but this time I have to set this as true. All right. So bypass is true. So regardless, so even if the reference number is blank, then I should be able to upload it. But for the second and third transactions, they should be okay. Whether I have flagged them as so I intentionally made them the first one is bypass is false and bypass is true. But since both have reference numbers, then I should be allowed to upload it. Okay? Let me just save it again. All right. And let me try uploading it this time. All right. And see how we go. Import, choose file, open, then import. All right. So let's wait for a few seconds or a few minutes to see if there is any progress. And um, this should be allowed. All of these transactions should be created because they should meet the criteria, basically. So especially the first one, the bypass is true, then there, right? So it's just a way really for you to come around with the validation that you have in the user interface. But then again, this is more applicable for import wherein like historical information or maybe transactions coming from different sources really which don't have enough information. Okay, so let me just go back to this, click on done, and I can just refresh it from here, right? So at the moment, before refresh, I have this much. If I refresh, then it should end like 25, right? Because I should have three more records that should be added. And let's have a look here. Perfect. It changed from 22 to 25, and I have this list view anyways to show the AP purchase invoice number and the reference number. And there you go. You can see those three transactions. The first one has been allowed to be created, right? Even if the reference number is false. Sorry, if the reference number is empty, it's all because I've defined the bypass field, custom field, as true. And for the second and third one, I have false here. I have true for bypass, but those are just being disregarded because I have the reference numbers in here anyway, so I should still be allowed to create those transactions. All right. So hope this quick demonstration helps, and this is just the email notification as a proof that we were able to successfully import those three transactions. And yeah, hopefully this recording helps as to how you can bypass the smart rule through CSV import by the use of custom fields that is hidden, so the user will not be able to access it through user interface, but the person uploading it would be able to flag it as true or false, just to or true, really just to bypass that validation. In this case, the reference number. Hope this helps. Thank you.